I want you to picture two rooms.
Okay.
Two completely different worlds, both operating in Alabama in the exact same month, January 2026.
Right. Same place, same time. What are we looking at?
Okay, so room number one is the Alabama Statehouse in Montgomery. You know the vibe.
Sure. Marble floors, polished wood, people in suits.
Exactly. It's sterile, it's bureaucratic, and the conversation is all about, line items and millions of dollars.
The machinery of government.
Yeah.
Got it. So what's room number two?
Room number two isn't really one room. It's a network of concrete cells and dorms all across the state.
Belmore, Limestone, Ventris, those places.
Yeah. And the air there is heavy. The buzz isn't about budgets. It's about survival.
That's a huge contrast to start with.
It is, but here's the thing. These two rooms are supposed to be connected.
I mean, the first room is supposed to be managing the second one.
Right. But when we looked at the sources for this deep dive into January 2026, it feels like they're in, I don't know, parallel universes.
That's a great way to put it. We've got a stack of sources that really show that disconnect. We have the official analysis of the January 28th Joint Prison Oversight Committee meeting.
That's the view from the suits.
Yep. And then we have the view from the concrete. Investigative reporting from truthout.al.com, the Alabama Reflector.
And this is the part I really want to dig into. We have the Riverbend newsletters.
These are so crucial. For anyone who doesn't know, this isn't some shiny corporate newsletter. It's more like an underground railroad of information.
That's a good way to put it.
It's internal reports, community updates, all coming directly from people inside the prisons. It's raw, and it's very, very specific.
Exactly. So our mission today is to see if we can bridge that gap. We need to see if the talk in Montgomery matches the reality of what Riverbend is reporting.
We're talking allegations of starvation, medical neglect, and some really disturbing retaliation against whistleblowers.
And we should probably warn you, some of the details from inside are going to be heavy.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So let's start in the air-conditioned room. Let's go to the Statehouse.
January 28, 2026, the Joint Prison Oversight Committee.
The room is packed, and not just with politicians. Sources say it was filled with families of incarcerated people just sitting there watching.
Watching ADOC Commissioner John Hamm take the microphone.
And the number on the table is just staggering.
The governor's office is recommending approximately $868 million for the ADOC.
Nearly $1 billion. $1 billion.
It's a huge sum, but you really have to listen to the language here. Commissioner Hamm, he said they are essentially level funded, except for a conditional $40 million for security staff.
Okay, hold on. Level funded. That sounds responsible, doesn't it?
It's supposed to.
It's like, hey, we're not asking for more, we're just keeping the lights on.
That is exactly what it's designed to sound like. But think about it. Inflation, construction costs, the prison population isn't shrinking. If your house is falling apart and your grocery bill doubled but your salary stays level, what happens?
You go broke, you can't fix the roof.
Exactly. In a prison system that's already in crisis, level funding is a budget cut in disguise. It means the decay just continues.
And speaking of decay, let's talk about the people running the place. Staffing has been the ADOC's Achilles heel for like a decade.
Right, but Hamm sounded pretty optimistic.
He did. He said 2025 was a record year for hiring, 473 new graduates.
And 473 sounds like a lot of people. But you have to put it in the context of the Bragg lawsuit.
This is that big federal lawsuit, right?
Correct. And Bragg is a federal court order. The court found that staffing was so low it was unconstitutional. So the court ordered them to hire a specific number of officers.
So how does 473 stack up against that court order?
It doesn't. Hamm admitted that even with this record year, they are still roughly 1,800 officers short of the mandate.
Whoa, 1,800. So they're celebrating filling a cup of water while the bathtub is emptying.
That's basically the math. And when you're that short-staffed, you can't run a prison, you can't stop violence.
Which is exactly what the families in the audience were trying to say. Legislators were saying they're getting flooded with emails about holes in the walls, about violence, people dying.
And this was the real flashpoint of the meeting, Hamm's response to those emails.
I honestly couldn't believe this quote. He called them cut and paste emails.
Dismissed them as blatantly false.
Yeah. He basically said, we can't deal with somebody in California sending a form letter about a hole in a wall.
It's a classic move to delegitimize the grievance. He focuses on the format of the complaint to ignore the content.
But if your son is inside and tells you he's scared, and a reform group gives you a template email to send...
Of course you send it. You do anything you can. It doesn't mean the fear is fake.
But he framed it as manufactured outrage.
And it wasn't just families he was brushing off. There was a really tense moment with Representative Jim Hill, who used to be a judge.
Right. He got into it with M. Stanford Robinson, the programs guy.
This is a classic turf war, but with human lives stuck in the middle.
Okay, so break it down for me. What was the fight about?
So judges in Alabama can give out what are called split sentences. That's like a contract.
Okay.
The judge says, I'm sentencing you to 5 years, but if you complete this drug treatment program, you can get out in 2. It's meant to get people rehab.
But that makes sense. Do the work. Get out early.
Right. But the ADOC is stepping in and saying, hold on, we're going to do our own evaluation first. And those evaluations just aren't happening.
So the judge says, go to rehab, and the prison says, maybe later.
And people are just sitting in prison, wasting taxpayer money, waiting for a class a judge ordered them to take. And Rep. Hill was furious. He told Robinson, quote, that is not your job. I assure you we expect that person to go to that program.
It's a total breakdown.
It really is. The judiciary gives an order, and the prison system just creates a bottleneck.
And while the suits argue, the inmate just sits in a cell.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the view from room 1. The complaints are fake, staffing is failing, but record-breaking, and they need $1 billion.
Now for room 2.
Now for room 2, the Riverbend newsletters. We looked at the reports from January 4th, 11th, 18th, and 25th.
And if Ham thinks those emails are blatantly false, he needs to explain the bodies.
Because the newsletters have names.
This is where it gets real. The network tracks what they call the death toll.
Yeah.
And for December through January, the list is just, it's relentless.
There was one that, I had to read it 3 times. December 9th, Eric Dwayne Sanders at Elmore.
I know the one.
The newsletter says he was beaten to death
Yeah.
over a snack cake.
Smack cake.
Like a little Debbie, a human life ended because of a packaged pastry.
It sounds absurd to us. But in the economy of a prison, when resources are that scarce, and we're going to talk about the food shortage, a snack cake isn't a treat. It's currency. It's calories.
That is just so bleak.
It is. And it wasn't an isolated thing. January 15th at Elmore, a double homicide.
David Lamar Calhoun and Londell Ramon Nunn, Jr.
Stabbed to death in a fight. 2 men dead in one day, in one prison.
And the commissioner is telling the legislature that reports of violence are cut and paste fakes. You can't cut and paste a double homicide.
No, you can't. And the violence is just one side of it. The other side is the neglect.
The newsletters call it a humanitarian crisis.
And looking at the medical cases, it's hard to argue with that. The stories out of Ventress Correctional Facility, just awful.
Let's talk about Brandon Richards.
This one is just, it's a perfect example of the system failing. The man is medically underweight. He dropped from 162 pounds down to 120.
That's skeletal.
He's supposed to be on a 3,000-calorie medical diet just to stay alive. But the reports allege an Officer S. Anderson just denied him food.
And the response from the chief of the unit.
Allegedly, Chief Wright was told about this starving man, and the response was, he gets what he gets.
He gets what he gets.
And then you have Reginald Lynn Sterling. He needs colostomy bags. The infirmary reportedly said they didn't have any, so he was left lying in his own waste.
The indignity of that is just, I can't imagine.
And Timothy Reagan, a cancer patient, final stages. In extreme pain, you'd expect, palliative care, morphine, something.
Anything.
The report says he was given only Tylenol 3.
Tylenol for terminal cancer pain, that's just torture.
Legally, that's not far off. This gets into the Eighth Amendment cruel and unusual punishment. The Supreme Court has ruled that deliberate indifference to serious medical needs is a constitutional violation.
And if these reports are true, that's exactly what this is. This isn't just a mistake, it's deliberate indifference.
Right. And you start to see why the commissioner might want to dismiss complaints. Because if they're true, they're not just management problems, they're constitutional violations.
Which brings up the question of how we even know about this stuff. We know because people inside are risking everything to get this information out.
The whistleblowers. And the ADOC seems to be cracking down hard on them.
This connects to the Truth Out reporting and that Oscar-nominated documentary, The Alabama Solution.
Right, which aired on HBO. This is major journalism.
And it focuses on 3 men inside. Raoul Poole, Robert Earl Council, who's known as Kinetic Justice, and Melvin Ray.
These guys are organizers. They co-founded the Free Alabama movement. And in mid-January, right after the film got buzzed, and they announced a nonviolent work strike.
The hammer came down.
Abruptly. They were transferred to a secretive solitary unit at Kilby Correctional.
And let's remind everyone, Kinetic Justice has already paid a huge price for speaking out. He was beaten so badly by officers in 2021, he has a cracked skull and permanent vision loss.
The timing is just too perfect to be a coincidence. You have a
Ugh.
work strike, a documentary, and boom, the main voices get thrown into the hole. It's a strategy.
You isolate them.
You isolate them. There's a quote from Raoul Poole in the film that's just chilling. He says, "How can a journalist go into a war zone but can't go into a prison in the United States?"
It's a hell of a question.
By moving them, the ADOC is making sure journalists can't get to them. You cut off the information network, you control the narrative, then you can go to the committee and say everything's fine because no one's left to contradict you.
But the newsletters did get out, and they shed light on the root of so much of this tension. Like, why would someone get killed over a snack cake?
The food.
The newsletters are tracking the switch to Aramark, this huge private company taking over food service.
And the early reviews are not good.
There was an image in the January 4th newsletter that compared an ADOC meal tray to a toddler's meal at a daycare.
And not because of the quality, because of the portion size.
Exactly. They were alleging it was the identical amount of food. Imagine a grown man trying to survive on a toddler's calories.
That's how you create desperation.
And reports from Bibb say it's even worse. They allege that food portions were drastically cut on purpose as retaliation for the work stoppages.
Using starvation as a weapon to break a strike.
And this is where that cycle of violence comes from. You starve a population, tensions explode, people get stabbed over snack cakes. The violence isn't random. It's a symptom.
And this contractor, Aramark, has a long history. The newsletters detailed fines in Michigan for maggots, fines in Ohio, billing fraud in Florida. It's a pattern.
And it seems like there's a pattern of looking the other way inside, too. The newsletters mention a Captain Rutledge at Bibb.
This gets to the culture of impunity. The report says he was arrested for third-degree domestic violence, and yet he's back at work.
And allegedly bragging about it to the people he's guarding.
When you have staff with violent records, when you have staff denying food and a commissioner dismissing it all as fake emails, I mean, you create a pressure cooker.
It all feels incredibly heavy. But before we get to our final thoughts, I want to share something for the listeners who hear all this and want to see a different approach.
Go for it.
Alabama's prison crisis affects every community. The Alabama Prison Reform Proposal advocates tech for safer prisons, real rehabilitation, and smarter use of taxpayer dollars because 95% of people incarcerated will return home. Learn the facts. Join the movement. Visit alprp.org. That's alprp.org.
You know, that statistic you just mentioned, the 95%, that's really the key to this so what of this whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, let's land on that, because I know some people are listening thinking, look, these are criminals. Why should I care if their food is bad?
And the answer, even if you don't care about the humanitarian side, is purely selfish. 95% of these people are coming home. They're going to be your neighbors.
Exactly. So look at the two options. Option A, you keep them locked up longer than a judge wanted. You deny them rehab. You starve them. You force them to fight over a snack cake.
And then you release that person back into society. Who's that person going to be? They're going to be traumatized, untreated, and desperate. That makes the community less safe.
Or option B, you follow the law, you staff the prisons, you give the medical care the Constitution requires, you let them take the drug class the judge ordered.
And you get a neighbor who has a chance. It's not about being nice to prisoners. It's about actually getting a return on that $868 million.
Because right now, taxpayers are funding a trauma factory that makes everyone less safe.
That's the disconnect. The Statehouse signs the checks, but the prisons produce the receipts. And the receipts are body bags and lawsuits.
It really makes you wonder if the Department of Corrections feels comfortable silencing Oscar-nominated whistleblowers. If they can tell grieving families their emails are fake.
Then what is happening in the cells that don't have a documentary crew watching?
Who is watching the watchers?
That's the question that should haunt everyone in Alabama tonight.
We're going to leave it there. Thanks for doing this deep dive with us.
Anytime.